something wasn't right. I didn't know what to do. I was like, maybe I need a different apartment. Maybe I need a different job. And I did the Marian consecration, but it was hard towards the end of it. I remember sitting in Mass, and as I'm sitting there, I had this like encounter with Jesus, and I felt like it lasted a couple of seconds, but I experienced this love that was like so deep and so tender. And it wasn't until November of that year that I was thinking back and journaling about that time and realized that that was the end of my Marian consecration. And I was like, oh my God, that was Mary who did that. And it brought me to a place in his heart that I could have never accessed by myself, and then gave me the grace to stay.
Welcome to the Catholic Woman Podcast, the show where we as Catholic women navigate the modern world together. I'm your host, Marie Hansen, and welcome to episode 50, which feels so weird to say because I've been doing the show since 2022, but because we have a very spaced out posting schedule, this is episode 50, you guys, so welcome, and I want to do a little giveaway to celebrate. So if you're listening to this when it airs, you can actually join the giveaway. If you're listening late, I'm sorry, it'll be over by then. But if you want to join the little giveaway to celebrate episode 50, here's how you can enter. So you can leave me a comment review on Apple Podcasts. Even if you don't have an Apple phone or whatever, you can still leave a review on Apple Podcasts. So this will all be linked in the show notes, so just go to where it says giveaway info, and it'll show you how to enter. But just go leave a quick little review on Apple Podcasts. It's just, you just type out I love the show or whatever you want to type out. And then screenshot your review once it's posted and either DM me on Instagram at the Catholic Woman Podcast, or if you don't have Instagram, you can email it to me at thecatholicwomanpodcast@gmail.com. Either of those are totally fine to submit it. And then if you want bonus entries, two other ways you can enter are to follow the show on YouTube. Again, this will all be linked in the show notes. Just follow, show me that you're subscribed to the show on YouTube, send me a screenshot on Instagram or email it to me. And then the third way is to also leave a comment on a post I'm going to be putting on Instagram. It's going to be pinned on the page, and it will say, something like, why do you love the show? Something about that. It'll just be a spot for you to leave a review of why you love the show, what your favorite episode is, whatever. So if you go and comment on that, screenshot that, send it to me, that will be a third entry. So there's 3 ways to enter, and the winner will be picked on July 6th, which is when next week's episode comes out. So I'll close it then. I'll do a random shuffle drawing. I'll put everyone's entries in, pick someone, and the winner will get a big box of Catholic goodies plus gift card because, we all love money too. So if you want to enter, make sure you check the show notes on how to do that. Thank you all so much for being here. I just love getting to chat with you every week and getting to talk to so many wonderful Catholic women and just Catholic voices who have so much knowledge. There's just such a depth of knowledge out there, and it's so important that we learn about all these things as Catholic women in today's world because it is a hard time with the secular culture to be living out the Catholic faith. So thank you for being here, and I'm so excited to do episode 50, so thank you guys again. All right, so today we're actually going to talk about Mary because why not? She's the perfect model of Catholic womanhood, and we're going to talk to Ruthie about this. So Ruthie Delasega lives in Pittsburgh, Kansas with her husband, Nick, and their 3-year-old son, Joseph. She has always had an interest in people's stories, but after a life-changing encounter with Jesus through Marian consecration in 2012, that interest turned toward the lives of the saints. In the summer of 2020, she felt Mary inviting her to write her own Marian consecration, one that walks through the lives of the saints and other holy people who have given the church Marian teachings and devotions. Her hope is that through these books, readers will be able to encounter Jesus in a new way through the powerful intercession of his mother. So seriously, what better example of womanhood do we have than Mary? Ruthie, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We were chatting a little bit before the show, you guys, and Ruthie and I have so much in common. We're both from big families, and we both have parents who have big families. And so I guess I find that such a unique aspect about me. I'm sure it is about you too. So Ruthie, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are before we dive into this episode?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks. So, like Marie said, I'm from a big family. So I'm the second of 7 kids. And my parents actually met on a Caribbean cruise. So my
No
dad is from
way.
Philadelphia. Yeah. My dad's from Philadelphia and my mom is from Kansas City. So they met and were married actually within about 5 months. My mom had
Wow.
promised, my mom had a big devotion, has a big devotion to Mary, but
Hmm.
did before too. So my parents met in January, and actually my mom, before she met my dad, had promised Mary that she would get married in the month of May.
Wow.
Which they just so happened they got married May 29th, so the very end. So they dated about 5 months. Yeah, but so they've been
Wow.
married. Yeah. They've been married now 44 years. I think
Wow,
coming up
that's
on 44
beautiful.
years. So, but I grew up in Kansas City. Like you said, I had a big family. So my mom is one of 11. And so I grew up with 55 first cousins on my mom's side, and we just did everything with them. It was such a great upbringing. And Mary had always played a large role in my grandparents' life and then in our family. Like we grew up, we prayed the rosary every night, and it was just something that we just did that. My grandma had a really strong devotion to Our Lady of Medjugorje, and
Hmm.
decided in 1995 she decided that she would take her family to Medjugorje.
Wow.
So for about 20 years, every year she took like some of the grandkids. So when I was 16, I went for the first time, and then I was able to go again when I was 23.
Wow.
So both with my family, which actually also creates like a unique relationship with those people. Like they're my family,
Hmm.
but also when you travel or when you do pilgrimage with people, it's like your relationship deepens in a different way. So it's
Yeah,
fun to now have those connections with some of my cousins and aunts and uncles. But
that's beautiful.
um thank you. So then my family moved to Arizona for 4 years, the 4 years I was in college. So I went to University of Arizona, and then my dad's job transferred him to Philadelphia after I graduated. And being the second oldest, my siblings were all still pretty young. So I didn't want to miss their upbringing. So I moved to Philadelphia with them, lived on the East Coast for 10 years. And in that time was when I had my conversion. So I was actually living in a little town called Hoboken, New Jersey at the time.
Yep.
You know, Hoboken. Okay. So
Yes.
I had never heard of it. When I like took a job, I was gonna live there. I didn't know anything about it. The first time I went was when I was looking at apartments. So I ended up
Okay, I'm
loving it.
sorry. I have to
And
say I know it from the show Cake Boss.
yes, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
embarrassing and
That's
dating me, but I'm
hilarious.
like,
Oh yeah.
no
No,
one
no,
knows
no.
it except I watched that show when I was young.
Carlos, yeah. Oh yeah. Carlos Bakery. Yep.
Yep.
That was it. So it's just a one square mile town. So it's
That's so
super small.
crazy.
So
Okay.
we could walk there, and there's always a line. But yeah, I had a good group of friends there, and I lived maybe a block from the Catholic church. It's called St. Anne's. But I was not super into my faith. I would go to mass because I knew my mom would ask me if I went to mass.
Hmm.
But I would regularly go late. I would regularly leave early. Like it just wasn't a part. Like I would pray the rosary if I was homesick or something, So it's
Hmm.
like that. The rosary growing up kind of instilled that in me, that it was like that is home. So I still did that stuff, but I was not like fully living my faith. And then, um, let's see, the winter of 2011, 2012, I started to get super restless. I didn't know, like something wasn't right. Like I didn't know what to do. And it's funny, I was like, maybe I need a different apartment, maybe I need a different job. I was like dead set on, if I got a sectional couch, then I would be like, everything would be right in
Life
the
changing.
world. I don't know why that was it. Yeah, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this couch anyway. That was when Father Michael Gately's 33 Days to Morning Glory came out. And my mom loved him because he had written a book, Consoling the Heart of Jesus, before that, changed her life. So she got it, and she actually gave it to my sister, and my sister read it and then left it on her nightstand, my younger sister. And then I took it because I was like, I just need something, like maybe this is it. So that Lent 2012, I decided I was going to go to daily mass, to noon mass every day, every work day. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this Marian consecration. So I did the daily mass, and I did the Marian consecration, but it was hard, more because I wasn't disciplined in that like spiritual reading. Some of the stuff was over my head.
Hmm.
But I was like, but like I committed to do this. I'm gonna do it. So it was definitely not a perfect Marian consecration, like by any stretch of the imagination. But towards the end of it, I remember sitting in mass, and at the time, it's like I kind of felt like I was living two lives. I was, one way with my family, and then a different way with my friends. And you kind of get to a point where I felt like I was hiding a lot of things more because I didn't know necessarily, like it's kind of like I lost a sense of what was right and wrong, or what like I could do and couldn't do. I was 27 at the time. And so going to daily mass, it was the first time that I had realized like these readings continue the next day, so I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got to this one day towards the end of Easter, and I'm like, or towards the end of Lent, and I'm like, I want to know what happens in the readings tomorrow, but I honestly don't know if that's allowed. Like it's stupid. Of course that's allowed, but I didn't know,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to wait until everybody leaves, and then I'm going to look at the readings for tomorrow. Rebel. So I did. And as I'm sitting there, I had this like encounter and it with Jesus, and I felt like it lasted, a couple of seconds, but it was like this, I experienced this love that was like so deep and so tender. And it was like a love that I knew I didn't deserve. And I know we never deserve it, but when like you're living a certain way, you're like, this is not earned at all, or not like warranted. And I experienced like his love in a way that I hadn't with the people that I had surrounded myself with. And it was like a protective love, which I was not in a space that I felt protected a lot of times. And so after that encounter, I just remember being like I want to change my whole life for you. Like I want to do whatever will get me closer to you, and whatever will, like allow me to just stay in that relationship, stay in that love, and tell people about that. Like try help other people get there also. So after that, I moved back home. So again, I said I was 27. I moved back into my parents' basement. I quit my job. Just like it ended up being 3 years of just like very intense healing from the life I had lived before. And a lot of like self-forgiveness was necessary, a lot of healing, a lot of learning how to pray, learning how to develop a relationship with Jesus, like a consistent one. And it wasn't until November of that year, so that was in March, November of that year, that I was thinking back and journaling about that time, and realized that that was the towards the end of my Marian consecration. And I was like, oh my God, that was Mary who did that. Because it's like in high school, I had always wanted that. I had always, prayed after communion, like, Lord, I want to live for you. I want to be with you. I want to change my life for you. And I would walk out the door and nothing changed. And at this point, I was like, oh my gosh, I needed Mary to be the one who got me there and kept me there. It's like she brought me to a place in his heart that I could have never accessed by myself, and then gave me the grace to stay. And I think that was the kicker. Like, I feel like we can have these big mountaintop experiences at retreats or at conferences or whatever, and we go home and our life doesn't change. Well, I feel like that was the key point that I was missing, was Mary. And I feel like ever since I welcomed her into my life through a Marian consecration, I mean, my life has completely changed in a way that I could have never expected. I feel like I'm like, there has just been like adventure after adventure, like and it's not like, I mean, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I live, I just live a normal life, but it's like that interiority, that interior relationship, or that interior, like prayer life is just like, it'll just blow up your whole world in the best way.
No one really prepared Catholic women to talk about intimacy. And for the next 60 seconds, we're going to talk about intimacy in a way that's meant for adult ears. So if you have little ones nearby, this is your cue to pop in earbuds. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Okay, you were probably told to wait for sex and that it was bad if you didn't. Then when you got married, you were told sex was holy and good. But when it came to living it out, you were left with silence. Is wanting sex selfish? Is enjoying it too much wrong? Are there boundaries or rules no one explained? Is what we're doing in the bedroom okay, morally speaking? Ellen at Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy is changing the conversation around sex and intimacy for Catholic women. So if you've ever wondered what the church really says about sex and marriage, grab the free download from Ellen. It breaks down the church's teaching clearly and faithfully so you can stop guessing, stop overreacting, and actually enjoy married sex. Because if you're constantly wondering whether you're doing something wrong, you'll never be able to truly enjoy it. And spoiler alert, God actually wants you to have a good sex life. Get your free download of What the Church Really Says About Sex and Marriage at reclaimingcatholicintimacy.com/CWP. That's reclaimingcatholicintimacy.com/CWP. There's a moment many of us know well. Staring at our closet in the early morning light before Mass, choosing an outfit that reflects not just our taste, but our faith. Beauty, yes, but also reverence. A way of presenting ourselves that feels aligned with who God calls us to be. If you've been looking for clothing that embodies a contemporary, feminine, and modest style, you're going to love Contemporary Saints. They're a Catholic family-owned boutique offering thoughtfully chosen pieces made with sustainable fabrics, named after saints, and designed to help you feel confident and aligned with who God calls you to be without compromising quality or style. Their motto says it perfectly. Modestly you. A boutique that understands that modesty has a different meaning to everyone. And the best part? They make it easy to begin. Enjoy free U.S. shipping on orders over $70 or a flat rate of $5 for U.S. shipping and $10 for international shipping. Plus, if you subscribe to their emails, you'll receive 15% off your purchase as a little welcome gift. Visit contemporarysaints.com and discover modest fashion that feels like home. Contemporary Saints. Modestly you. If you're a woman of faith who wrestles with worry, overwhelm, racing thoughts, or the weight of expectations, you're not alone. And you don't have to just push through it. I want to introduce you to today's episode sponsor, Catherine Danuzzo, a licensed professional counselor in private practice who offers distance counseling to individuals seeking emotional peace rooted in their Catholic faith. Catherine is also the founder of the apostolate Sacred Heart Mental Wellness, which brings together psychology, Catholic spirituality, and devotion to the most sacred heart of Jesus. Catherine is the author of The Catholic Guide Through Anxiety, a powerful resource helping readers understand what's happening in their minds and hearts through a Catholic lens. And now she has released a brand new companion workbook for the Catholic Guide Through Anxiety, which gently guides you through prayer, journaling, reflection, and real-life application. It is perfect for individual use, parish groups, or Bible studies, campus ministries, and spiritual direction. You can search for both books on Amazon right now or visit sacredheartmentalwellness.com to learn more. And if you do purchase through their site instead of on Amazon, you can also use the code CWP15 for 15% off the entire shop, including all of Catherine's workbooks and books. So sacredheartmentalwellness.com with code CWP15 for 15% off her entire shop. And if your parish, ministry, retreat, conference, or college campus is looking for a Catholic speaker who connects faith, psychology, and practical emotional tools, Catherine Danuzzo is available for speaking engagements nationwide. Again, search The Catholic Guide Through Anxiety on Amazon or visit sacredheartmentalwellness.com and use code CWP15 to learn more, schedule counseling, and bring Catherine to your next event. All of that can be found on her website, sacredheartmentalwellness.com. That's beautiful. Wow, thank you for sharing that. I find it very interesting that in retrospect, you realized it was really Mary that you needed to kind of bring you to Jesus and then keep you there, like you said. And I think as women, especially, I mean, men need her too, but especially as women, sometimes it's just easier to go to your mom for something over your dad, especially when it's something that's a little more vulnerable or more intimate. And I think some people see Mary in that way, but a lot of us, I think, see her like on a pedestal and as like this perfect mom who, you know, is just perfect and she's up there and we should strive to be like her, but can't really come to her for anything. And so I would love to talk to you about how we can bring Mary down to us and, you know, see her as the mom who also struggled, the woman who was up in the middle of the night with a crying baby, and the woman who had fear, whose heart was pierced with a metaphorical sword, and all the sorrows and everything that she went through to make her, one, more relatable, because I know I struggle with seeing her as like perfect, and she is perfect, but she still is our mom and still wants to help us. So let's start with that. How other than doing a Marian consecration, which I want to really dive into in a few minutes, how do we first see Mary as someone who can help us get to Jesus? And how can we really cultivate that relationship with her?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, through my own experience, there's different titles of Mary that I've kind of walked with over the course of my life, but especially since becoming a wife and a mom. And I'll say the most relatable title that I call on daily is Our Lady of the Kitchen. So I have a statue of Our Lady of the Kitchen in my kitchen because when I got married, I did not like to cook. I didn't know
Hmm.
really how to cook a lot of things. And I didn't know there was a title or a statue of Our Lady of the Kitchen, but I would pray to her. I would, it's like, Mary,
Hmm.
help me. Like, I didn't know how to make tacos when we got married. I'm like, help me, like, enjoy this and help me learn how to do it and come up
Yes.
with different foods. So I feel like just like calling on her in our everyday life and knowing that she also lived that way like is super helpful for me. I also think when you say Mary is perfect, yes, she is perfect. And what I've experienced or learned through the years is that when you and not through me necessarily, but looking at other people, also my experience of the closer you get to Jesus, I think people are afraid that they will go away, if that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
their personality goes away if they get closer to Jesus, or all of a sudden it's like not them anymore. And I've experienced that is not the truth. The truth is what strips away is all of the vices, all of the sins, all of, the impatience, the jealousy, the comparing, the greed, all that stuff starts to strip away. So it's not that you're less you, it's that you're the most you can be. And
Mm.
so Mary being perfect is like we can look at her as being unattainable or like far away, or we can look at her as like she is exactly who God created her to be. And that like we want that. Like I know I want that. But like in so I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit. In volume 1 of Mary and the Saints, the first person that I talk about is Fulton Sheen. And his teaching is there's a gap for everybody between the person God created us to be and the person we are. And the reason for that gap is sin. It's like our free will. We choose sin. And so we're not like exactly who he created us to be. And
Hmm.
there's one exception, and that's Mary. So Mary is exactly who God created her to be. Not, yeah, again, not that she's like unattainable, but she is perfect in God's like plan for her, God's vision of her for her life. So I think that is something that I just find myself regularly, praying to Our Lady of the Kitchen, praying Mary fill the gap, like, and then I use that as like fill the gap between the love that I can give and the love that my husband needs, or the love that my son needs, or the time that I have, just like fill the gaps, take care of the details, do all those things. So I feel like um yeah, it's I don't know. I think that that's kind of the two things that really came first to mind when you say that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, you said fill the gap and all those things. You have shirts that have that. You gave me one of the shirts, and the one I picked was Mary, lend me your heart, because I, as a mom, am very impatient. I've talked about this in episodes before. It's one of my vices is I'm very slow to be patient. I need to work on it. And so with little kids and toddlers, it just requires so much patience, and it's really hard for me not to snap. And so there's so many times in the day where I'm just praying, Mary, lend me your heart, give me your patience, give me your love, all of these things. And I do think it works, even if it's not just psychological, but even if it was just psychological, just taking that moment to remind yourself, okay, there's something greater going on here, and this moment can be used for virtue. Or Mary, fill the gap. Like you said, this is what I have to give, and this is what they need, and I don't have enough. Fill that gap. And she does. And honestly, it takes a load off of you a little bit. Like, to ask her to come
Totally.
help, she will help. As a mom, if my kid wants help, of course, especially if it's something important like that, a good mom is going to come help, and she is. And so that's just a beautiful way, one, to take a little bit of a load off yourself, and then two, to grow a relationship with her. So I want to talk about growing a relationship with her. One of the biggest pushbacks that Protestants and even some Catholics have is, why go through Mary to get to Jesus? Why not go directly to Jesus and God himself. So can you talk about why we would even bother going through Mary to get to Jesus?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not to take away from our relationship with Jesus. It actually, I mean, like I said in my own experience, it enhances it. It enhances your relationship with Jesus, and it keeps you more committed to it. But being his mom, like you're a mom, I'm a mom, like being a mom, it's like you have access to places in your kid's heart that nobody else does. And so we can go to Jesus on our own, absolutely, and we should, but also go with her because she can bring us deeper into his heart. She can unlock places in his heart that we can't, and then keep us there. And also as a mom, like we see in the example of the wedding feast at Cana, like she sees what we need before we need it or
Mm-hmm.
before we know we need it. And so she can help with all of, with that. And like when things happen, like when you consecrate yourself to Mary, you can consecrate your business to Mary, like you can consecrate anything, your family, your parish, your business, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And she will help in those places. She also, like, the devil is afraid of Mary. He cannot be where Mary is. So if we are under Mary's mantle, if we are with her and protected by her, we are more likely to be able to recognize God's will, where he's inviting us, where his invitations and promptings, and give us the grace we need to say yes to those and then to follow through on that yes. So I think going along with Mary, it's just it's a kid holding a mom's hand. Like you want to go with her because she can see further than we can. She knows what's coming and we don't. So that I think is super important, but also there's a lot of, Marian teachings that say wherever Mary is, the Holy Spirit is. And it is through the power of the Holy Spirit that, it was in the reading, the Pentecost reading, is through the power of the Holy Spirit that we can call Jesus Lord. So if we are with Mary, then the Holy Spirit flocks to where Mary is. And so if we're consecrated to Mary, he will come and he will animate and he will clear out what's not of him and, give us all the graces and the gifts and the fruits and whatever it is that we need to accomplish God's will for our lives. And so there's like so many reasons to be consecrated to Mary, and it's not to take away from Jesus, it's to enhance and deepen our relationship with him.
Why is the devil so afraid of Mary?
Because Mary is God's perfect instrument, and her humility, like she is perfectly humble, and the devil is not humble, and so he doesn't like her for that reason. But she also, so in Genesis 3:15, it will put enmity between Mary and him. And so just wherever she is, she has the power of God with her. And because she is a creature and has that full power of God, that humbles him, and he hates that.
Love it. She's like the one person, creature, human, who is above him as a divine being, and that is terrifying. So I'm glad that we asked that, because I know that's a little deeper theology that we don't always necessarily talk about as Catholics, so that's good. I want to, you said you picked up the consecration book off of your sister's table. What made you do that? Why did you want to do a consecration? And then why did you want to eventually write a consecration?
Yeah, okay, so I didn't know I wanted to do a consecration. Honestly, it was a spiritual book that was there. And so that I was like, I need to do some sort of spiritual reading. By the grace of God, that was the book that was there. Um, so that was what originally actually got me into Marian consecration. I didn't even know a ton about it when I did it. And it wasn't even until my own experience that I wanted to learn about it. I had to experience it first, and then I kind of dove deeper and was like, oh my gosh, wow. So that was 2012. And then so my whole life I've loved people's stories, like other people's stories. And before my conversion, it was a lot of like celebrity stories, People Magazine and Us Magazine. I just always loved to read those and just like kind of keep up on these lives. Well, after my conversion, it's not like my interest in people changed. Like I still had that interest in people, but God then used it. He purified it, and he used it in a new way, which was he really introduced me to the lives of the saints, and they just had really come alive to me. And I loved to read about them and read about like things about their lives that maybe you wouldn't read in all the books. You know, I liked
Mhm.
to know like the little everyday things about them. And then after it was so in 2017, I became a campus minister at a high school in Kansas City. And part of my class, what we would do whenever there was a feast day, I would do a presentation on that saint. So I had to like dive pretty deep and learn about these saints. So then I had a lot of these presentations or, just like information, knowledge that I had learned about them. Well, so in the summer of 2020, I was home in Philadelphia with my family, and every year I had done a consecration using 33 Days to Morning Glory, Father Michael Gately's, and I'd finish on Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So maybe 2 weeks after that, my sister was a second grade teacher at the time. She was maybe 26 or 27, had never done a Marian consecration, but knew was such a big part of my life. And so she said she wanted to do one. And she said, I would really love to learn about the saints too, because she wanted to teach her kids, her class about the saints. And so I'm like, the only one I could think of was the 33 Days to Morning Glory. But I'm like, I just did that one. I'm going to do it with you. So I'm like, there's got to be another one where there's a saint that's being featured every day, a different saint being featured every day. I'm like, somebody had to have written that. So I look, I couldn't find it. And so one day in adoration, I kind of feel that invitation of like, you do it. I'm like, no way. That is so much work.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not qualified for this, like all these things. So I just kind of put that out of my head. Well, so then when my sister asked, I kind of thought about it and I was like, okay, what I will do, since I can't find one that's already written, the kind that I picture in my head, then I will write you an email every day, because I was going back to Kansas City a couple days later. So I'm like, I'll write you an email every day about a different saint or person on their road to canonization that has given the church like a Marian devotion or teaching. I'll focus on the apparitions, like all of the Marian prayers, like whatever. So I'll just write you about one of those people a day and email it to you. And so I started working on the first one, and my mom caught wind of it, and she's like, "Well, email it to me too." My sisters, so it ends up like I email pretty much my whole immediate family that those first 33 days, and then my like a couple of my mom's friends join us, just like a couple of people. It ends up to be about like 14 people that do it, and so we end on Mary's birthday and on September 8th, and then. I thought that was it. Like, that was good. It was a good experience, but I had started work again in the process. And so it's just a lot, so I'm like, okay, that is good. And actually, side note, I met my husband in the very middle of that, writing
Oh
that
my
consecration,
gosh.
which was amazing. So the school that I worked for tried to do a Marian consecration every year leading up to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Well, this year, we had done other consecrations and we're looking for a new consecration to do. And I just kind of offered, I'm like, well, I did this. Like, I don't know if this is something you would want, but I have this if you want it. And so we did that and did it the same way, emailed a different person every day, and that was our whole community, and parents and whoever wanted to join could join that. So it was a little bit bigger audience. And I got feedback like throughout the course of it of, oh, wow, I didn't know that about that saint, or, this helped me grow closer, help me understand this better, whatever it is, just kind of little comments. And then when that ended, my coworker said, hey, can you print a copy of that for me for my mom? My mom loved it. I want to give it to her for Mother's Day. So I was like, yeah, I'll print it on like the regular printer and staple it and give you a copy. Like, sure, I can do that. Well, so, like I said, I met my husband in the middle of it. Well, my husband owns him and his brother and his dad own a family business, and they had acquired a printing company right before we met. So we met August. Our first date was August 29th. Yeah. So I'm talking to him about it. I'm like, can you print this at work or whatever? And he is a visionary. He has way bigger vision than I do. And he's like, well, we can like make it a book if you want. Like, we have the capability to print it like that. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, if you do that, then I wanted to get it professionally edited, proofread. I want to get an imprimatur for it to make sure, everything is according to the church teaching. And so we decided to kind of go that route the beginning of March, and it just like everything fell into place in like 10 days. We got
Wow.
this editor who was a Catholic editor who specialized in lives of the saints. So we made sure all the facts were right. We got the imprimatur from our archbishop came back super fast. Like all these things that just like all fell into place, and we were able to get that printed, and the first shipment went out Our Lady of Fatima. And so that first round, I just, put on Facebook or something like, hey, if anybody wants a copy of this, I did it, not expecting a big response. And I got a way bigger response than I was expecting.
Wow.
So then from there, it just like things kind of snowballed. And that next year, that same sister that I'd originally written it for was getting married. And so she said, can you write another one? Same thing, but with 33 new people leading up to our wedding. So I did that the following fall. And that's why we have 2 volumes. So yeah, then since then, I mean, we have not like done a ton for it, honestly. Like, we got married, we had a kid, you
Yes.
just like kind of life happens.
Yes.
But it's like the times that I'm not like focusing on it or pushing it or whatever was with the times that would like things would happen. Got an invitation to be on a show on EWTN, just randomly.
Wow.
When our son was a couple months old, things like that, like, I've spoken at women's conferences.
Mm-hmm.
We've had so I'm in the Diocese of Wichita. We had our seminarians all do it. We've had confirmation classes do it, First Communion, like all these different parishes. So it's something that I consecrated it to Mary. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I consecrated the Marian consecration to Mary, but I'm like, this is yours. You do
Yeah.
with it whatever you want and take it wherever you want. And if you don't want to take it anywhere, that's fine with me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just, like my husband and I, we like check in every once in a while, but like, no, our thing is we want the most people to learn to know about Marian consecration and to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah.
That's beautiful how it grew just kind of naturally and organically out of your life. And I will say, so I years ago had done the 33 days to morning glory. And like you said, it's good, but it's very theologically intense. And so if you're a baby Catholic or someone who just doesn't really have like a ton of formation, it can be a little too much. And so what I love about yours is that it's very practical and it walks through the lives of the saints, but with Mary, and I just feel like it's much more accessible to many Catholics. It's not by any means watered down. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. I think the other one might be just like the next step. Like if it's just
Yeah.
much more theologically intense, and you just need like a little more formation to kind of get something out of that one. Not that, I mean, you did it, like you said, when you weren't really, but you also admitted it wasn't like at all the best Marian consecration ever. I think consecrating yourself to Mary in any way is going to be beneficial to you. But if you really
Totally.
want to walk through that consecration in a great way, this is such a good one to start with, volume 1 and volume 2. And I just love that you make it accessible through the lives of the saints because, the saints were just like us. They're just normal people who lived holy lives, and we can use their model for how to live ours. And I love that. So when you were writing it, I'm like very curious. Were there any saints in particular that really like stuck out to you or that you really liked?
So I think my favorite saints are Saint Therese and Elizabeth of the Trinity, but the reason for that is because of um like their love of their sisters. Like they did stuff for
Oh
their
yeah.
sisters. So and I'm very close to my 3 sisters. And so I appreciate that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And like reading Story of a Soul, I just remember the things that like really popped out to me were like her teachings are so beautiful, and they were formed by her family, like formed
Mm-hmm.
by her sisters, like she would mention like, as you said, or as you taught me this, or whatever it was like her teaching is very much like influenced by her family and her family's teachings of her when she was growing up. And then Elizabeth of the Trinity, the same thing. Her writings, like especially her retreat, was written for her sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I just feel like that's something I can relate to. Like I would never have done any of these writings of any of my stuff on my own, but if I have a sister that's going to ask me to do it, heck yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's just that relationship. Like you understand that. Those are probably the two that I hold closest to my heart.
I love that. Were there any like common themes or anything like that that you saw among the
Mhm.
saints?
Yeah. So what I noticed and what's so interesting is, every like every saint's life is completely different. Like it's very unique, and it's because they are who God made them, and God does not make photocopies. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
is so unique. But I realized, like, of lack of a better word, like the formula for a saint was the same, and that would have to do with frequenting the sacraments in Marian consecration. It's like I thought it was John Bosco's dream maybe that he sees the church as a ship, and it's like all these rough waters and all these things that are trying to attack it. And as long as it stayed between these two pillars, which were the Eucharist and Mary, it was safe. And I
Mm,
feel like that is what I noticed over and over and over again. And like a lot of times it would be like after the saint like had their Marian consecration or invited Mary into their life was really, it seemed like, was when their mission unfolded. And maybe it's because that was when they had the graces to see it and to say yes to it and to complete it, whatever it was. But like, I feel like she shows up so much. And again, she is the one that keeps you faithful. And so these saints, by inviting Mary into their lives, they were able to be faithful to the
mm,
sacraments, to adoration, to all the things that keep you close to Jesus and keep you on your mission. It's like she is that person. So again, I feel like as different as the lives of the saints are, that was, I noticed over and over and over again, was consecration or like a close relationship with Mary and frequenting the sacraments.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, especially because like a formal consecration hasn't necessarily always existed, but I'm sure when you look back on Lives of the Saints, they still had some kind of relationship with Mary, and the church has always held Mary like up in esteem because I mean she's the mother of Jesus. Even like the very early church, that's one of the things Protestants like are like, oh, you guys added Mary. It's like no, actually, if you go look at like what the very first Christians were ever doing, they still held Mary in very high esteem. So that's very interesting that you found those themes throughout. So there are obviously the Catholic Church is just rich with so many traditions, and especially there's a lot of different Marian traditions. There's different novenas, there's the Rosary, there's different apparitions that people can, venerate and learn about. Even in actually the United States, I know some of our listeners are international, but most are in the United States. There's an approved Marian apparition site here in Champion, Wisconsin, which is near Green Bay. So we don't even have to fly internationally to like go visit these sites and things. But then there's also this beauty of a consecration to Mary. So can you talk to why that might be a good starting point for people who want to grow in relationship with Mary? I mean, like I said, there's tons of other beautiful devotions, but like, why should we start with a consecration? Why would that be a good starting point?
Yeah. I would say because that is like you giving yourself to Jesus through her formally. And I don't mean formally of like you necessarily have to do the 33-day preparation like, very rigidly, and you do like you can the Marian consecration preparation is super powerful and fruitful. You can also just say, Mary, I want to give you my life. I consecrate myself to you. And that's, you're giving yourself to Jesus through Mary. So that I feel like is um, super powerful. And then that's your whole life. Like God gave you your life and you are giving it as a gift back to him through his mother to do with whatever he wants, whatever he sees fit, whatever is his will for your life.
That's beautiful. You're right. That's a really, really good starting point. So, for the women listening who want to grow in deeper relationship with Mary and want to do a Marian consecration, what would you recommend the first step for them be?
I mean, I would say you can just say, just do a prayer, Mary, Jesus, I consecrate myself to you through Mary. Make that your daily prayer. And then get some sort of Marian consecration book, and then that way you're more familiar and you can dive deeper into what you are praying, what you're asking for. So I would say that do a yearly consecration to kind of keep it fresh on your mind. But that is where I would say is a starting point. Get a book that you like, a Marian consecration book you like, but also just start the habit of, Jesus, through the Immaculate Heart of Mary, I give you my day today. Just starting with that prayer.
That's beautiful. So simple. Takes 5 seconds, and you can add that
Yeah.
into your day. I love that. Well, Ruthie, this is such a good conversation. Can you tell everyone about, like, I know we've talked about your books a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about them and where people can find them? And then, I know we have youth ministers and teachers listening, so maybe talk a little bit about how you use these in big group settings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so our website is marianthesaints.com. So it features the 2 volumes of Mary and the Saints, Marian Consecration, which again is like the 33-day prep for leading up to the Marian Consecration prayer. And each volume features 33 different saints or holy men and women that have gifted the church with their Marian devotions and teachings, apparitions. And so those are on the website. And those have been used, like you said, like I said, seminarians have done it, first communicants have done it leading up to First Communion. Confirmation classes have done it as a way to introduce their students to more saints. So kind of like at the beginning of the year, like the beginning of your confirmation prep. We have had a lot of parishes do it, both men's and women's group, and then just parishes as a whole. Colleges have done it. So just a lot of big groups have done it. You can do it as a big group or as a small group. And then we also have on the website, we have a marriage novena book that features 9 different couples that are either canonized together or on their way to sainthood together, their biographies, and then these beautiful novena prayers by St. Jose Maria Escriva. I was given permission to use these novena prayers in conjunction with the biographies of those saints. So we have that. We have a lot of kid resources. We have a 9-day First Communion novena, which features 9 young saints who had a devotion to the Eucharist. And then we have a Lent book and an Advent book. And these are, they have like a journal prompt question and then a space for journaling. But the Advent one is, so it's a full Lent, so 28, I think it's 28 saints who the child Jesus appeared to in their life. And there's just super sweet stories. And then the Lent one is broken into different things, but it's like saints who were with Jesus at the foot of the cross, saints who had a special devotion to his passion, saints who offered up their suffering. So it's a couple different topics in that one, but we offer all of those. And then there's just other resources that have to do with Mary and the Saints and just growing deeper in your devotion to Jesus through them on the website as well. So it's marianthesaints.com. And then the 2 Marian consecration books are also on Amazon.
Awesome. Yeah, and your work is fantastic. I've looked through pretty much everything, and I will say your Advent and Lent stuff is fantastic because it's something you can do with toddlers. Like the info and then the reflection questions are something that's very accessible to toddlers, but as an adult you can also go much deeper. Like I think you just did such a fantastic job on all of it, and the marriage novena is really cool. I learned so much about all the different couples. Like, I knew of like Gianna Mola and like people like that, but there were more in there that I was like, I've never heard of this one before, and it was really cool. And it's such a good wedding gift. I'm like, if someone's engaged, it would be such a fun wedding or bridal like shower gift for them because it's very unique. I don't think most people are getting these like novena books for their bridal shower or their wedding. So I think it's a really, really cool gift to give to people. But yeah, just check out her website. And like I said, I also have your shirt, which I absolutely love wearing. It just reminds me throughout my day. I'm like, Mary, I need you, lend me your heart. And she's got lots of other things. I'm a huge fan of all your stuff, and I just wish everyone could get everything off your website. So I just have to plug that. But this has been such a fruitful conversation, and just such a good starting point too of like, if nothing else, just begin praying that 5-second, offering your day to Jesus through Mary. And that's just a great starting point. So thank you so much, Ruthie, for being here. This was such a beautiful conversation. And I also want to thank today's show sponsors, Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy, Sacred Heart Mental Wellness, and Contemporary Saints. Also, don't forget to enter the giveaway. That'll be in the show notes. I can't wait to read all your reviews. And just thank you guys again so much for being here. Yay to episode 50. And I will see you all in 2 weeks.